Oh, what did I just do? Oh, I guess I'm live. Hey, Ellie. This is my first time I've ever done this. Can you hear me? I don't even know if this is working. I had a lot of people ask me to do a live, so I thought I would jump on. Hi, Celine. Cool. I have not done this before. You know what's funny? I've actually never drinking a beer in my life. That is the truth. I know that seems weird. I don't have anything against it. Alcohol was just never the thing that I did for whatever reason. So yeah, here I am. I mean, I started making videos 4 months ago. It's weird. I was on TikTok. I have almost 108,000 followers on TikTok, and it's different on TikTok. It's very highly regulated. Yeah, no judgment. Well, you know, the good thing is about not drinking is that I'm everybody's designated driver. every person that hears that they want to be the first person to get me to drink a beer. It's like I know. Hi everyone. I've never done YouTube live. This is literally my first time. So I have slow mode on, which means that people can comment like every 10 seconds in case there's I'm assuming that trolls come in here. I don't know exactly. But a lot of people had messaged me in comments. I try to read as many as I can. Oh, would I ever consider voting for the Libertarian Party or the Green Party? I think we need to have 3 or 4 parties. The 2-party system it's working how it was designed, which was to control the 2-party system and to keep themselves in the power. I'm not even a Democrat. I'm not a Republican anymore. I'm just an independent. What I'm seeing is people wanted to vote for Democrats in the midterms. What I don't understand is this. Where we are today, we have people in concentration camps. We have people being kidnapped in masks. Thank you. We have people drinking out of toilets in concentration camps. We have people that are migrants being sent to countries that they're not from. We have EOs from the president that's targeting individual citizens. He's going after the news media, going after the First Amendment. Hi, Isaac. Just say, let's wait a year and a half. It seems extremely tone deaf. What are we supposed to tell people in concentration camps? Wait a year and a half. If Hakeem Jeffries comes into power, maybe he'll do something. The people that are being kidnapped, wait a year and a half. Wait until Hakeem Jeffries does something. I wish that good. Should be split to MAGA type. I wish we would have more empathy. As a former Republican until 16, I left a month after the election. When I saw those people that claimed to be people of faith worship a man instead of God, I left. I don't care if you worship a grasshopper. I don't care if you worship a rock, an ant. I don't care. I don't care if you're an atheist. It's none of my business. Your religion, your faith doesn't dictate who you are as a person. We decide who we want to be. Our morality, our ethics, our integrity, our compassion, our empathy, that's not found in a book. Now, I happen to read the Bible. It's okay. But MAGA is a religious cult. What MAGA is, in my opinion, is that a lot of white people in this country got scared when Barack Obama was in the White House. And when they saw a black man in the White House, instead of picking their cotton, they lost their minds. And that's when we start to hear traditional family values, which means white America. They saw their version of a white kid in a white ice cream store sitting next to a white cop going away. Diversity, gay people, trans people, lesbians, immigrants, it scares the hell out of them because a lot of them, thank you, Miguel, a lot of them grow up in rural America. My dad, as an example, is from Terre Haute, which is where Larry Bird is from. He's like basketball Jesus to them. But they're very ignorant. they're not awful people, but they're not very bright. They grow up seeing white people. A lot of them never leave. And that's all they know. So when you look at the TV and you see people that don't look like you, it scares the hell out of them. And then when you have a president that says your version of America is going away, it's the brown people's fault. That's what you get, right? These people vote for Republicans their entire life. They have the red states as a majority, have low information voters, low education, low in wages, high infant mortality, high gun violence. Then they mooch off the blue states because they don't bring in a lot of money. If you look at the most successful states like California, which is the third or fourth largest economy, they poo-poo it all the time, but 11% of the population live here. Out of 330 million people, 41 million people live here. Not exactly a dystopian hellscape that people don't want to live. 11% live in one state. Think about that. Is it perfect? No, but it's a great state. The weather's good. Yeah, it's expensive. And that's, in my opinion, that's what we've never addressed as a society. Addressed white supremacy, and that's why we're here. And I kind of feel like what's happening right now with the fascist takeover, it's very symbolic of that, because white people stood by while lynchings happened, Black Wall Street, segregation, Jim Crow. We just sat back and said, hey, it's not my problem. I'm white. I'm safe. And we're doing the same thing right now with fascism, right? Oh, my job's safe. I don't want to risk my job. That's only happening to the brown people. We're doing the exact same thing again. And I hope that we wake up out of this. So I'm going to try to read some of the questions here. I don't know how the whole troll thing works. Frankfurter says, I don't know about history. This is what I know about history. In 1787, racist founding fathers that owned black people designed this country to benefit one group of people. 21-year-old landowning white men. That's a fact. They said black people were only worth 3/5 of a white man. Women couldn't vote. Women didn't have rights. Women couldn't have credit. And women couldn't have no fault divorce. That's what I know is a fact. That is history. And the problem with people like Frankfurter here, he's another uneducated white man that needs to play his white grievance card, is that he only wants to believe that America is the best of the best of the best of the best. He wants to believe that America is the greatest. He wants to ignore the Jim Crow. He wants to ignore the mass shootings. He wants to ignore the Asians in internment camps, the fact that black people couldn't vote for 200 years, that white people stood by while black people were hanging from the tree. Hey, nobody's perfect. We're getting there. Well, that's really white of you, because you have the privilege to say that. If your grandparents were put in a tree and they were black, you wouldn't be saying this is a great country. But because you're white, you look at it through the eyes of white supremacy, which is why you're here. In my video earlier today, that's what I talked about. And a lot of this comes from this toxic masculinity. It's people like Frankfurter is like that, right? He'll talk about the Second Amendment. He'll put it on his condoms and his hats and his shirts and his underwear and his socks. He'll put it on his Wheaties. He'll put the Second Amendment on his truck. He'll put it on his flag. But God forbid Frank ever wants to talk about the 3/5 clause. He'll never talk about that, ever. But he wants to talk about the piece of paper that was written by racist founding fathers. That is his Bible. That is American history. And the fact that we keep ignoring it is why we're here. Now, whether I like it or not, I have white privilege. And people like you, Frank, don't want to admit what actually history is. Too many insecure little boys in this country think that an AR-15 or a Glock or a Sig Sauer makes them a quote-unquote real man. That winning every argument, owning the libs, quoting the Constitution somehow makes them smart. No. It is, Celine, it's about control. A lot of this right now is about maintaining the white patriarchy. And one thing I heard yesterday, 2 days ago on a live, hey, Glenn, is I asked a guy on TikTok, two guys actually, and this is just who I am, because I have an aunt that was a victim of assault. I said, why wasn't assault a red line with Gene Carroll? You know what he said? Well, there's other issues to consider. No, there's not. No, there's not. That's immoral. I'll accept bad policy. What I won't accept is immorality. And I asked him, what if your mom was Gene Carroll? Would you still vote for him? And he said no. And that's the problem. It's the lack of empathy. Because it happened to Gene Carroll, because it happened to Officer Sitnick, because it happened to the officers on January 6th, because their mom was an Adriana Smith who was forced to keep her corpse alive, and they basically tore the baby out of her womb after forcing her to stay alive because, you know, the pro-life, after Amber Thurma passed away, because their family members wasn't one of those, because their family members weren't kidnapped, because their family's not a concentration camp. They don't give a damn. And that's the problem. And that's why I started doing videos 2 years ago on TikTok, is because these same people that go to church with their Joe and the Ho bumper stickers and their F Joe Biden flags, and they pretend to be a Christian for 1 hour, and they say, love thy neighbor as thyself. They don't give a damn about anybody but themselves. Look at their slogan. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Are you better off? Let's say that I am better off. But let's say that everybody in this chat isn't. That's selfish, right? And that's part of the problem, is we don't care because it doesn't affect us. FaZe Falone said he looked like Cheeto Jesus as a father. He never met his. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know if you guys watched my video. I made one like a couple weeks ago. So I grew up in a very physically abusive house with my dad. He was frying pans, and if we like ate at our table, he would stab us with forks. I'm not even joking. It was not good. But there's a story that I heard many, many years ago, and I always like to quote it. There was two brothers that grew up in a house. Sorry, this is my first time doing this, so I don't know where my height is on the thing. Two brothers grew up in the same house. One brother was very successful and had a good, loving family, and the other brother was an alcoholic and very abusive. And this reporter was curious how the brothers grew up in the same house, but they came out so different. So she asked the very successful brother, how did you turn out so successful? And he says, my dad was an alcoholic, and he used to beat us all the time. And the other brother, how did you turn out this way? He said, my father was an alcoholic, and he used to beat us all the time. One brother used it as a stumbling block, and the other one used it as a stepping stone. It's a choice. We choose to be like our parents. It's not easy. It's hard. It's hard as hell. But it usually takes 2 or 3 generations to break that cycle. But I made a decision to cut my dad off. And I told him in person, I said, hey, I love you, Dad. This is before he had surgery with his heart. I said, I love you, but here's the thing. If I allow you to be around kids and treat them the way you treated me, it's not your fault. It's my fault as their dad, because I'm allowing the cycle of abuse to continue. I said, I love you. I forgive you, but I can't be around you. He's like, you know what? I respect that. I respect it a lot. And, you know, he said something interesting that you guys will like. He still blames his dad for who he is today. And I said, you know what? I said, Dad, your father's been dead for 20 years and he's under the dirt. How long are you going to blame your dad for who you are at 65 years old? When are you going to take some personal responsibility? And it's true. I'm 48. I can't blame my dad. My dad and his dad and his dad, I can tell you guys stories, but I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I can tell you it's really dark. Really, really, really dark, really bad. To go from my great grandpa to me, ooh-wee. I think you'd have to have one of those red band trailers. It's really, really bad, but I don't want to trigger people in the chat here. I don't know the Sons of Liberty. I don't know that. I'm sorry. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. My dad is a lot like him. He was a narcissist. And a lot of people don't understand with narcissists, they're actually not very tough. When you look at the president, the Klan leader, the adjudicated rapist, a couple years ago, There was a book written about him. He got into an altercation with somebody on a golf course, and he got punched, and he got knocked down. No, my dad wasn't orange. And he did nothing. He stood there and he looked at the guy and he got up and he walked away. That's exactly what he is. He is a coward. What he has done is manipulated uneducated white people in this country to think that their white America, the greatest country in the world, whatever that means, is going away. He blames CRT. He blames DEI. He blames Antifa. He blames George Soros. It's green M&Ms. It's the woke mob. It's the fake news media. They're the victims of everything. And they're going to vote against their best interests. Oh, well, thank you. I try to do it in a PG-13, but every once in a while my language is a little rated R because I think that the way that people treat women in this country is kind of gross. The fact that when he won the election, my aunt was on the phone crying with me, not understanding why 77 million people didn't see sexual assault as a red line. And it's really disgusting. It's truly gross. And I really believe even if they release the Epstein files and he's in there 200 times, his white cult won't give a damn. They don't care about morality. I mean, think about it. 34 felonies, whatever. Jean Carroll, whatever. Assaulting 25 women, whatever. Grabbing to buy the PU blankety blank, whatever. Not renting to black people, birtherism, insulting disabled people, making fun of Ted Cruz's wife, having dinner with white nationalists. I mean, January 6th was horrible. They overlooked all of it. For anyone that thinks that the Epstein files is actually going to do anything, they're just going to say it's fake news. It's rigged. Oh, look, there's an anomaly in the paperwork. Oh, look, it was the deep state that put it in there. That's what they're going to do. He has basically twisted his idiotic, uneducated white supremacist base to only believe what he does. And that's what Jim Jones did. He's a cult leader. He's not smart. He's an idiot. But he talks stupid. And when they saw somebody like Kamala Harris or somebody that's successful, or they call him an elitist, right? Oh, I don't like her cackle. Because she's smart. She's educated. She uses complete sentences. She doesn't talk about windmills and Hannibal Lecter, and it breaks their stupid brains. They're eating baby food, and she's preparing a 3-course meal. They don't even understand how the branches of government work. They don't understand supply and demand. Somebody said, and worth the labor to join humanity from a place of love and cooperation rather than fear, competition. And yeah, politics has become a sport. But I also think, on the other hand, for far too long, the Republican Party, now the white supremacist cult, has taken away people's rights, and they want to agree to disagree. And I think that time has passed. I actually think that's good for the country, because you're taking away women's rights. You're watching people get shot in schools and doing nothing about it. You're taking away people's Medicaid. You're taking away our veterans who their funding for their suicide prevention hotline. The time of you just crapping on people and saying, we just disagree, that time's over. And it is time that we took a stand against it. Say enough is enough. Yeah, I was trying to read the comment there. When I do TikTok, I can actually have guests up, but I don't think this works that way. Sorry. Who are current Trumps? What is my stance on socializing? You know, I'm fortunate in California. I don't have a whole lot. I had one uncle that was trying to sell me on injecting bleach in UV light. I'm dead serious. And I asked him to stop, and he wouldn't do it. I had to block him. I didn't have a choice. I had one cousin on my wife's side that kept commenting over and over again. I had to block. I didn't have a choice because he kept harassing me. That's really the only two people I really have. And my brother's kind of my brother is an idiot. He voted for him because he's afraid that somebody's going to come take his Glock. He's not too bright. Yes, Riley Gaines is a clown. She finished 5th place. And on some level, and you might agree with me on this, The Democrats are responsible for people like Riley Gaines, but this is why. When the Republicans talk about CRT and trans people in schools and DEI and all this, how many Democrats have you seen, and maybe I've missed it, went out and said, tell me the names of 50 trans kids that had surgeries in grades K through 12? How many people that were quote unquote DEI hires were unqualified? Tell me the names of 50 schools that taught DEI or CRT between K and 12. I've seen 0 Democrats push back on that. And I hold them partly responsible, because if you don't push that kind of culture war nonsense, you're complicit in it. Silence is complicity. That's how I see it. And for whatever reason, the Democrats don't have a backbone. I don't like Hakeem Jeffries at all. Jasmine Crockett's incredible. Hakeem Jeffries is a clown. All he does is send out strongly worded messages. And I'm afraid what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to sit on their laurels for the next year and a half and assume that we're going to have a democracy in hopes that somehow Hakeem Jeffries is going to win. I mean, this is what I think is going to happen. Assuming we still have a democracy, what's Trump going to say? He's going to say the Democrats rigged the election, right? They gerrymandered it. I really won. What are you going to do? Fight, fight, fight. And what's going to happen? We already saw with January 6th. Let's assume that happens and somehow we get through that. Then the Democrats win the midterms. What's going to happen? The next 2 years, it's going to be scandal after fake news, after yelling, after demeaning everybody. It's going to be an absolute circus and nothing's going to get done. They're going to spend the Democrats, if they win, would spend the next 2 years basically neutralizing the president. And then you get the 28. And then what? We elect another Democrat, maybe, maybe not. We're assuming that he's going to leave office. We're assuming that Republicans aren't going to pass a bill to give him a third term. I just think this is totally unrealistic. And the reality is, let's say we somehow limp to 28. You're still in the broken system. If I ran for president, what party? I would just be an independent. My gut, this is what my gut tells me. 90 million people didn't vote in the last election. That is the biggest group of people that are tired with the system. About 1 to 1.5 million voted for Jill Stein. About 750, 800,000 voted for RFK. I believe that the majority of people are tired of the two-party system. I really believe that. The challenge is tribalism is a hell of a drug. It is. Even now, what are you hearing? You're voting for the lesser of two evils. Well, no. Kamala Harris did say it right on, was it Colbert? The system's broken, right? Here's the thing. If we don't fix these 5 or 6 things, if you don't reverse Citizens United, remove AIPAC, put term limits on congressional people, if you don't have the ability to recall your governor, your congressman, or your senator by 2/3 vote, if you don't reinstate Roe versus Wade, if you don't put in safe gun reform, and if you don't raise minimum wage, what's the point of continuing down this project? Because this is the reality. Let's look at Walmart, okay? Let's say you tax Walmart, the largest employer with 1.4 million employees. Sounds great, doesn't it? Where does the money go? To the government. Then what? Nobody talks about that. How does that get the 1.4 billion people that work at Walmart more money? Has anybody in the comment section heard of any solution as to how those people are going to make more money? Because if the money's in the government, I don't want the government. I'm not a big fan of government. I mean, I like them. That's the problem, Miguel. Nobody in Congress, and I love Bernie Sanders, but here's the thing. Fight the oligarchy. Whoop-de-doo. That's great. That's a good slogan. What's your solution? You put a cap on it. You say if you're going to pay your CEO $17 million a year while your median employee is making $30,500, anything over $5 million, you get no tax write-off for it, no tax benefit. You give them a bonus, no tax benefit. You want to pay profit shares, no tax benefit. Now, if you want to pay your people more money and you pay them a living wage, then you have two ways to do it. You can do it dollar for dollar at a linear curve, because I'm a business major, I understand economics. Or you do it as a curve. So let's say based on inflation, 3%, right? Because this is really the problem here. 725 since 09. 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%. This difference is why people can't pay their bills. Because the cost of living is going up, but not the take home. Debits and credits. There has to be a break in, right? That's what's happening, is all the money is going to the top. And we're just slave labor for the corporations. You have to incentivize places like Walmart to pay their people more money. And they have to stop giving money to Congress people. Put a limit on how much you can raise. Let's say for the president, it's $50 million. That's it. That's the max. Then you're done. I don't care what it is after that. No more money. Because I like J.B. Pritzker, but here's the reality. He's a billionaire. Is it okay to have a billionaire run for president as long as he's on your team? That's kind of hypocritical, right? I don't want billionaires in there. What we need is a president that needs a paycheck, that has a mortgage to pay, that has car payments. We need somebody like a Jimmy Carter. Was it Jimmy Carter? He was a peanut farmer, right? We need somebody that just works. Someone that needs a paycheck. Like I would need to work. I can't just work. And right now we have too many people that are in that office that are millionaires. They don't even need it. They're literally donating some of their salaries to charities. That's not okay. They don't struggle. I had to walk 3.5 miles each way to work when I worked at UPS up in Oregon. Each way in rural Oregon because I couldn't afford a bicycle. I was broke. We've all been there, right? You can't make your rent, so you go around the back or you come in late or you wait till people are asleep. We've all done that. Yeah, Jimmy Carter was a great guy. He was an actual person of faith. He didn't have to go around and bash people over the head with the Bible. He helped people. He built houses for people. He actually lived it. Faith without works. Yeah, minimum wage should be at least $15. Now, is it perfect across the board? Is Alabama the same as California? No, I get that. Yeah, Jeff Bezos is a dope. He's a clown. He's what's wrong with America. The other thing that we have to fix is this. And I understand people on the right are all against regulation. Walmart goes into small towns and they lower their prices and they decimate small businesses. That's unacceptable. They purposefully take a loss for like 2 years and then everybody goes out of business. They have nowhere else to go because it's a small town and they have to work for Walmart at slave labor and their way of living goes down the toilet. And then they slowly raise their prices back up. And you're stuck. And then Walmart's taking over the whole town. That has to stop. It's not. That's not okay. That is not healthy capitalism when you screw whole towns. It's not. Germany rejected Walmart because they didn't want them putting small businesses out of business. They didn't want people to have a poor quality of life. Yeah, see, Mexico, they do the same thing. They're like, Walmart's like a cancer. It is. It's not good for this economy at all. And you make people dependent on there. People work there. I mean, 1.4 million people work at Walmart. And the CEO makes 495 times the median employee. Think about that. He makes $17 million versus $30,500 to what? To sit on his ass? To tell poor people that they can't get a raise? Come on. And then you and I, we subsidize Walmart. 15,000 employees don't get paid enough money. So we have to pay for them. Their health care, their SNAP, their benefits. That's ridiculous. If we actually gave them a living wage in a perfect society, we shouldn't even have the need for Social Security if everybody got paid a living wage. Thanks to people like Another Place to Buy, we have markets internet. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Kroger. I used to live in I lived in a place called Coatesville, Indiana, which is like a little town outside. But I know Kroger very well and Fred Meyer's. There was actually Fred Meyer's in Oregon when I lived up there. But yeah, I know Kroger very well. Part-time jobs is different, right? If it's for kids or something. But I mean, for some people, that's their full-time job. And when I go to Vegas or something and I do the radio show out there for Brian Shapiro, I'll talk to them. And they'll say, I just want, like, they're working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. And they go home and they pass out their cash because they're so tired. There's too many people in this country that literally their entire life is work. They have no quality of life. And that's the problem. It just is. Look at Germany. They have a 35% tax rate. Yeah, it's high. But you know what they don't have? They don't have mass shootings. They don't have millions of people in bankruptcy. They don't have a massive homeless problem. People have family leave. They have a good quality of life. What we've done is that we've traded a good quality of life for capitalism. And every 4 years we say, are you better off? I.e., do you have more money in your pocket? I wouldn't exactly measure that as a quality of life. You can have as much money as you want. But if you're afraid your kids are going to get shot in school, if you're afraid if your wife gets pregnant, she can't get the health care she needs, is that considered a good quality of life? I don't think so. All world needs checks labor serious. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I have a physical disability, Paul. That's why I work at Kroger. Yeah. There was a place called G.I. Joe up in Oregon when I lived there. I used to get fishing supplies. I used to fish the Columbia River all the time, right below Bonneville Dam, way back in the day. Yeah, capitalism is good. Capitalism and selfishness and white supremacy is, if this country doesn't survive this, that's what it's going to be. And I still think no matter what happens, if we don't address white supremacy in this country, none of this is going to matter. It really doesn't. Because that's what this is about. There's somebody asked me to make a video and I have to do it. There was a town in Kentucky, I think. It's like a whites only town. I'm not kidding. I'm dead serious. Let me see where it is. Hold on. Kentucky. I think it's in Kentucky. Let's see. Oh, it's in the United States. Do you think minimum wage should be the same everywhere? That's a good question, Lee. I think there should be a federal minimum wage for federal employees across the country. But I think the minimum wage in Alabama and California obviously is going to be different. But I also think this. I also think that people are afraid to pay people more money, and you just can't do that. Because they're literally like living to work. It's not a good quality of life. If you have to charge more, then charge more. And if you're going to pay them more, we should be making $22 an hour. Because we have 36.8 million people that live in poverty, 14 million kids that go to school hungry, and 800,000 people that are homeless in this country. That's not great. We have a $4 trillion budget. We have 3 people that have as much wealth as 50% of this country. Think about that. How is that great? For who? For rich people? For rich white people? I disagree, William. I don't think special elections here. Indiana, Washington State, $20 now is very good. Yeah, I think the minimum wage is going to vary state to state, but I think there has to be some standard. It can't just be because tipped workers make $2.13 an hour. That's bananas. When the rapist was in the office the first term, there was checks and balances, and there was people that told him no. Those people are all gone. That's the problem. This is Nazi Germany. We have to stop kidding ourselves. That's what this is. It's the brown shirts. People are coming out of vans in masks and kidnapping people. We're not going to survive another year and a half of this. There's no way. Because what's going to happen is that people are going to start dressing up as masked people, and something's going to happen and someone's going to lose their life, sadly. I don't want that to happen, but that's what's going to happen. It's inevitable. But here's the thing. Let's say we go to the midterms. This is what I'm trying to get to. Let's say that we make it to the midterms. Hakeem Jeffries is still taking money from AIPAC. They're still getting money from corporations. They're still making millions of dollars. They're not raising minimum wage. They're not putting term limits on. They haven't reinstated Roe versus Wade. They haven't put in safe gun reform. We're going back into the same system. Insanity, by definition, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's what we're doing. Is we have been trained since the inception of this experiment that we have to stay within the confines of the two-party system, and we simply don't. But we're also too afraid to break away from it. That we have to vote for the lesser of two evils. And that's where that comes from. And we have to break away from that. That's correct. Salaries never go up. And right now, the economy is going in the toilet. A nice facility, but is there too many don't know what's going on? Yeah, Deborah, I think too many people in this country are still thinking that what's happening is never going to affect them. Even some of the Latinos are starting to see like, oh, I thought he was just getting rid of the brown people. Like they believed all of his lies. But the thing was, they were fine with demonizing everybody else. They thought that they were being exempt. Even now, the MAGA farmers, they're losing their farms because of the USAID thing. I saw interviews with white guys that were doing great under Joe Biden. Great. And he passed the clean energy bill, right? But he still voted for Trump. He's like, oh, I liked his immigration policy. Now he lost his job and he hasn't worked in, I think, a year. Because he was racist. Because Trump made him think that his version of white America, that the brown people were raping women and children and murdering and stealing. And I haven't heard anyone's name. And I blame the Democrats for part of that messaging. Because go back to, what was that lady's name in Arizona with the undocumented immigrant? Back in, was it 01 or something like that, or 21? Was it Lincoln Riley or something? There was over 40,000 people that lost their lives to gun violence. And the Democrats just let the Republican Party steamroll it. Because she was a white girl and that was an undocumented brown person. So they use it as racism. It was rage bait. That's all it was. Her face was on everything. She's on a bill now. What about the other 43,500 people that passed away? What about them? Why don't they matter? Because it was a culture war. It's about maintaining this white supremacy. Your version of white America is going away. That's what it is. That's what the MAGA party is. White supremacy. The guy that's in the White House said, take off your white hood and put on your red hats. Don't be afraid to be racist anymore. Come out of the closet. That's what this is, people. There was an article. Where is it? Here. Hold on. There was an article yesterday from June about a lady that got deported. Now, she's undocumented, so she can't vote legally. She got a phone call that says, we're going to come take you away because you're undocumented. She goes, oh, that's really funny. They came to her house and took her. They arrested her on the other side of the car so her kids wouldn't see her being arrested. And even while she's in custody with 3 kids crying, if I could vote, I would still vote for President Trump. I will support him until the day I die. That's literally what she said. I'm not kidding. It's a cult. They would drink the Kool-Aid. Thank you, anarchist. You know, for student loans, that's actually a good point. This is what I think should happen with student loans. I understand. I'm very middle of the road, right? I don't like saying fiscally conservative because I think being financially responsible isn't a left or right issue. It's just, this is our tax dollars. Let's just be responsible. I paid for my student loans, but I also don't want people to go into debt for 20 years because we tell people to pick yourself up by the bootstraps, go to college, and then you're in debt for 20 years. And when you're in debt, you can't afford a house. Now, instead of completely wiping the loan away, I don't know if I completely agree with that, but this is what I do agree with. It's coming from the government and it's your taxpayer dollars. What I would propose, and I would love to hear your opinions, is take away the interest. Okay? Let's let people pay down the principal. Take away the interests and just have them pay the principal. So they're still responsible without getting penalized for decades and decades. And then change the student loans to like 2%. I think that's a fair compromise. You're not getting it for free. It's not quote unquote socialism because that's an evil word, but you still have personal accountability because the reality is how much of that money, EPV, is actually out of that debt is interest. Oh, medical school is a little different. Yeah, that's going to be a different creature altogether. Thank you, Kathleen. How do you deprogram the Jim Jones? You can't. The reality is that white cult, many of them are going to have to lose their jobs, lose friends and family, their spouses. They're going to have to be homeless. They're going to have to lose their house. They're going to have to suffer from their consequences. I don't like it. I get no joy from it. But that's the only way until reality hits them in the face. They're never going to leave the cult. And even then, many of them are going to stay in the Titanic after it hits the iceberg until the bottom of the ocean. And for some of his base, even after he passes away, they're probably going to write his name in there after he's done. That's just who they are. It's a cult. I was thinking cavalry. Somebody asked about. Yeah, the problem is Republicans don't want an educated base because they want to keep their. I mean, let's be real. My dad's from Indiana. It's his. The primary is trailer park trash base. They are. Their whole thing is to own the libs and blame everybody for everything. They don't have critical thinking. They don't understand the three branches of government. They don't even understand people voted for him because they got a stimulus check. They don't even understand that Congress passed it in a bipartisan way. But because Trump's name was on it, they gave him credit. That's his base. It just is. They're low. I talked to a guy 2 days ago. I'm not kidding. He came on my TikTok live and says, I want to apologize. I voted for him. Why? He's like, because I was stupid. I didn't educate myself. Okay. What about Gene Carroll? He literally said, I didn't even know about it until like a couple months ago. I was an idiot. There are people that live in a bubble and they watch Fox News every day. And that's what happens. In 83 or 84, when the Fairness Doctrine got overturned, that should be reinstated. It should be like Walter Cronkite, where we have fair and unbiased news. Tell the news, let the people decide what side of the aisle they want to fall on. Republican, Democrat, Independent, or other, green, whatever it is. But now we have 24-hour news that's propaganda. When Benito Mussolini, for those of you that are history buffs, Benito Mussolini was the fascist ruler of Italy in the late 20s, early 30s. And one of the things that got him into power was 6 days a week from Tuesday to Friday. He ran it's called, hold on, let me look it up. Benito Mussolini newspaper. It was called Popolo d'Italia. Il Popolo d'Italia. He did it before. He founded it in 1914, way before then. Sorry, it was early before then. But it was basically Fox News and paper 6 days a week. And after he got elected, he had his brother take it over and kept pushing propaganda. And Hitler said it. If you tell a lie enough, people start to believe it. And that's what this guy is good at, is lying. Because he cheats at everything. He cheats on his wife. He cheats on his taxes. He cheats on the presidency. He cheats on golf. He literally cheats his entire life. For Trump to the no, Trump's a cult leader. It's not even a question anymore. And Chris Cuomo was starting to turn into a cult leader too. I don't know what happened to him. I'm really disappointed. There's a lot of people in the news that are trying to be grifters and make money off of people's outrage. And I think it's very, very, very sad, and it's very unfortunate. And they're doing this country a grave disservice by doing this. Let's see. It's a start. In truth, one should want an education. Yeah, ideally, yeah. Paul, do you think that Puerto Rico should gain legitimate independence? What about the U.S.? I think if Puerto Rico if they're citizens, they should have a say. I absolutely do. If and that includes the U.S. territories. If I'm not mistaken, they have as many people as, I heard it was like the state of Rhode Island or something. Same thing with D.C. There's 500,000 people that live in D.C. That's as many people live in Wyoming. Why shouldn't they have representation? But the reality is the Electoral College should not exist. There's no reason that Hillary Clinton should have got 7 million more votes and lost. That is minority rule. That's ridiculous. That's not democracy. And you should make voting a national holiday or make it on a Saturday. That's the way it should be. You should make it easier for people to vote. Yeah, Puerto Rico should be a U.S. territory. It should. I don't know why it's not. I don't care if the left, right, middle. That's not relevant. And too many politicians use that as is D.C. going to be Republican? Yes. If is it Democrat? Oh, then no. It's not what it's about. It's about representation. Who they're going to vote for is irrelevant. They should have a say in the process. And we have 500,000 people in the States. We have people in Puerto Rico. And how many people live in Puerto Rico? What's the population? Population of Puerto Rico. Holy crap. 3.2 million people. Holy crap. There's only 500,000 people in Wyoming. That's probably more than half the states in this country. That's a lot of people. Now, that was last year. But yes, they should be. They should have a senator and congressman and everything. Yes, I really think that the U.S. Constitution should be rewritten. And I'm going to say this as a white dude. I do not like the fact that there is a piece of paper that we worship and we built our foundation on that says that a black person is only worth 3/5 of a white man. I fundamentally have a problem with that, and everybody should. I don't give a crap if there's an amendment, 2 amendments, 3 amendments. If it's equal and you want to progress and you really want to say that we're equal as a society, then change the damn Constitution. The Second Amendment was written with muskets that took 1 minute to reload. We don't have muskets. We have AR-15s. That needs to be changed as well. It's an old piece of paper that probably should be changed every 50 to 100 years. Yes, the whole senator thing is garbage too. The fact that we have 2 senators with 40 million people and you have you're right. Now, I don't know what that looks like. I haven't really put a lot of thought into that. I think the congressional seats is probably appropriate. Gerrymandering needs to be banned. I don't like this. Texas is going to do 5 states and California is going to do 10 states. I don't like that. I understand. Let me be clear. I understand the desire for Democrats to fight. I agree with that. I do. But you're getting away from democracy when you do this because it's no longer about the will of the people. You're fixing elections for your party. And if you don't think that these MAGA Second Amendment nuts are going to have a problem if they lose in the midterms and people gerrymander states and red districts, you're not paying attention. Yeah, Belchan, we actually need a French-style revolution. Now, what that looks like, I don't know. I'm not saying it's arms. I'm not saying that. But we need to change this system because it is not working for the people. And what's the problem? Here's the challenge: is the system it's designed to keep people poor and to keep you afraid of standing up and saying, "Oh, I can't afford to strike. I can't afford to protest." It's designed intentionally for that, to keep the population suppressed so they don't feel like they have a say and a voice. Does that make sense? Yeah, Kathleen, the representations are population based on the congressional seats. What I think the problem is the senators, right? Because look at California. We have 2 senators for 40 million people. You have 500,000 people in Wyoming. They have the same vote. They basically wipe us out. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. That's minority rule. Oh, yeah. My wife is a massive Hello Kitty fan. Yes, she is. She had a Hello Kitty Christmas tree, but we took it down after like 7 months. She's like, I'm good. Let's see, the representative population based. Why don't they care? Because they're white. MAGA cares about as long as they're white, they're okay to MAGA. That's why they're fine with importing immigrants from South Africa, because they're the right demographic. And it goes back to what I said. This is about white supremacy. DEI, CRT, trans people, gay people, lesbian people, taking away the history of the Martin Luther King bust, or Harriet Tubman, or the Tuscany crew. That's what this is all about, right? Now he's putting the Confederate soldiers back on there. This isn't even a dog whistle. This is a blowhorn. This is straight up racism. And nobody on the media talks about it, or independents. You know why? Because we're addicted to outrage. Go look up. I don't know how to share my screen on here. Can I? I don't know if I can. I don't want to hit something and kick you guys off by accident, but if you go look at all of the Midas touches, the Charlie Kirks, and you look at their thumbnails, it's all outrage, right? Oh my gosh, what did Trump say? Or bright colors, or shock, or a question that it invokes an emotional reaction from you, right? Because we're addicted to outrage. I'll give you 3 examples. Lahaina. We all agree what happened in Lahaina is horrible, the fires. But do we care? Do we see on the news the rebuild efforts? No. There's probably people still living in tents. But we don't care because it's not sexy. The LA fires. Do we care if people got their insurance claims done? No. Do we care if they live in tents? Not at all. But it was fun watching the fires burn. How about Hurricane Helene? Do we care that there's still raw sewage on the streets and people are still in tents? Because there are. No, we don't care. We don't care at all. How about the flooding in Texas? Have we heard about it since the first day? No, not at all. This is what we are as a society. We're addicted to outrage. And so, the Jim Costas, the Midas Touches, the Charlie Kirks, the Candace Owens, they say ridiculously stupid stuff. They interview rich people, famous people, celebrities, congressmen, senators, because they want you to like it and share it and subscribe so they can make money. That's just the fact, people. It's just the fact. Fascism is here, and none of them. Tell me which influencer right now talks about white supremacy. Because that's what this is about. After the Civil Rights Movement in 1964, the Democrats and Republicans switched ideologies. You could be right, Elle. I don't know when that was. I don't understand why Republicans say, oh, the Democrats started the KKK back in the day. It was wrong. It's over with. Now it's not. Now we have the first black president that was a man by the Democrats. The first black woman was the Democrats. What happened 8,000 years ago, I can't change that. It was wrong. Yeah, Kathleen, we're just, even when I go on TikTok and I talk about a general strike and fighting fascism, it doesn't get as many likes, right? And then you go and watch these 23-year-old girls doing these, these dance videos where they're doing a Kendrick Lamar song, and they'll get millions of views, or somebody makes a funny reaction to a song, millions of views. But you talk about democracy or fascism, 5, because it's not tantalizing. It's not a dumpster fire. It's just the way it is. Even when we, hi adventures, even on commercials on TV, right? When you listen to a commercial, they purposefully raise the volume of the commercial to get your attention. That's what it is. You're right. Oh, thank you, Adventures. Belchan, you're right. The racism and the white supremacy, black people can talk about all they want. They're the ones that have been treated poorly since the inception of this country. The only way that this gets resolved is by people like me speaking out. Whether I like it or not, this is the pigment of my skin. It is what it is. Shit happens. It is what it is. I am who I am. I can either hide behind it or I can use it to do what's good. With great power comes great responsibility. Whether I like it or not, I have privilege. And until we use it to tear down the white male patriarchy, so Adventure 2 years ago, when I left the Republican Party in 2016, a couple years ago, my wife was tired of me complaining about everything that was going on. And she says, why don't you find a constructive way to get out your frustration? So on a walk one day, I walk like 5 miles a day. I made a TikTok video and I said, oh, I started a TikTok video. She goes, what? And now I have like 108,000 followers on TikTok. So it's kind of crazy. And about 4 months ago, I started posting my content on here. And I had like 2 videos go like crazy viral. I didn't even know it. Like, I was like, okay, well, it's not working. I had like one video get like 480,000 views. Another one had like 300,000. I have a bunch now. And I started making videos. So I've got like 31,000 followers in like 4 months, which is kind of crazy. Thank you, Paul's wife. Uh-oh. Somebody knows me. Thank you, Paul's wife. Who's my wife? What's my favorite color? I don't know. Probably green or blue. That helps us get out the frustration. You're way better than wannabe Joe Rogan. You know what I don't like about this? Is what I listen. Everybody has a right to have their own opinion. For me, oh yeah, I love Brian. I'm actually going to host Brian's show, Pushing the Limits, the Thursday and Friday at the end of the month. I think the 27th and 28th. He's probably going to text me tomorrow. My problem with Joe Rogan is this. With great power comes great responsibility. Whether you're an influencer, a podcaster, an athlete, an actor, a news anchor, a reporter, Joe Rogan has a massive platform. And what Joe Rogan did, I don't care about his politics at all. I care about morality and decency. He voted for a man who was a liable rapist, who had sexually assaulted 25 women, who molested a 13-year-old girl on Epstein Island. And Joe Rogan, because he wanted to be a bro, he wanted to be near power, he overlooked it because he thought that this was toxic masculinity and his bro base was going to get off on it. That's my problem with Joe Rogan. Because I guarantee you this. If Joe Rogan's mom was Jean Carroll, there is no way in hell that he would have ever voted for that person in office. Ever. But because it was somebody else, he didn't give a damn. And there's too many men in this society that normalize the misogyny, the racism, the sexual assault of women, and I am sick and tired of it. And it's not okay. Until more men stand up, it's not going to change. It's just not. Well, I might just be one dude, but you know what? I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to try to act like what I think is true masculinity. I actually thought I posted a pretty good video today. I get a little frustrated sometimes with certain things. It's not masculine. No. Anybody that votes for a rapist is a disgusting pig of a man. They're not. They're not real men. They're little boys. It's disgusting and it's vile. I don't care if I get a $20,000 tax credit. What I care about is morality and decency. That's what I care about. And anybody that calls himself a person of faith that cares more about getting money from taxes and getting a bigger paycheck than morality and decency and kindness and decency isn't a person of faith. They're a Pharisee. And I have no problem saying it to someone's face. Joe Rogan is a wannabe alpha male. He symbolizes the toxic masculinity of insecure little boys in this country that need to win. And the fact that 77 million people voted for a rapist is disgusting. And it's a stain on what this country claims to be great, because it's not. I don't care if my taxes are lower. The harm that it's done to women in this country is unforgivable, and it's disgusting, especially from people that go to church and call themselves evangelicals that love Jesus. You think Jesus would send a rapist here? Yeah, he's just a bro. He's toxic. He's a beta male that attracts this wannabe alpha toxic masculinity. That's all Joe Rogan is. He is emotionally a little boy who never grew up, and guys are attracted to this bro workout. You know, I don't know if he does steroids. I'm not saying he does, but this whole masculine, eat a raw steak off of a wood board with your 6-pack, go out to the river and catch a salmon with your raw teeth, and go arm wrestle a bear, and that all that crap. It's not masculine. It's stupidity, right? They want to punch people and get in fights. Like, it's stupid. But it's this desire to want to win. We do a really bad job of teaching young men how to fail in this country, and I think it's a shame. Yeah, Jerry Springer was popular because it was outrage. And that's why we have a clown in the White House. Because we chose the clown, the rapist, the felon, the asshat, because he was entertaining. Because we didn't want the most qualified black woman in the history of this country. Qualified candidate in general. That was a bridge too far for some people. Yeah, I watch Rachel once a week because I think she's the gold standard. She comes with facts. And I watch a little bits of Lawrence O'Donnell, but literally that is it. I haven't watched CNN in 2 years. Ever since they had that town hall with Caitlin Collins, that was an absolute joke. And now they have that white nationalist Scott Jennings on there, who's a joke too. He's just a circus. He's a ratings whore, is what he is. He just is. He's a whore. He's a Pharisee. He's just another wannabe alpha male that wants to get clicks and likes and own the libs and support a rapist. It's disgusting. Golden the Science Puppy. I don't understand his popularity either. Yeah, I don't even watch Colbert. I watch, you know who I really like is, I love John Oliver. He's an absolute, who's my favorite rapper? Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to do something that's going to sound a little cheesy here. What Rachel Maddow was on MSNBC on Mondays, 1 day a week. Who's my favorite rapper? Okay, I'm going to do something where, is there like a poll? Can I do a poll here? How does this work? Enlarge your audience. I don't know what this means. Oh, I don't know what this is. Oh, here we go. Oh, I can ask a question. Hold on. Let me figure out how to do this. Give me a second here. Ask a question. Oh, I could only, Amen. Hold on. Or, all right, hold on. I'm going to start a poll, I think. I'm going to ask. I'm going to break the internet. Ah, there it is. Did that work? This is my first time on YouTube. Did that poll thingy show up? There it is. Oh, man. Everyone's picking Eminem so far. Sweet. Sorry, this is my first time doing it. I don't want to break the internet. Everybody's picking Eminem. It's your birthday. Jay-Z's pretty good too. New York State of Mind is really good. That's cool. Any other questions? I'm going to go watch a little bit of it's my kid's first day of school tomorrow. I have a freshman now and a senior. Holy smokes. I am getting old. Yeah, Rachel Maddow. So, fun fact. So, my freshman year, I lived in the Bay Area when I grew up. I went to Dublin High School in 90 and 91. And then in 92, I went to Castro Valley High School, which was a Trojan. So I missed Rachel Maddow by 1 year because she graduated the year before I went there. So her and I actually went to the same high school. I missed her by 1 year. So we're actually alma maters. Ooh, Eminem, Jay-Z. You know who I used to listen to? Totally off. You're going to laugh. When I was a kid, I had an 8-track. And I'm gonna show my age, and I bet you maybe 5 people know. I used to listen to a group called the Fat Boys. Does anybody remember that, or was I just a nerd? Anyway, yeah, the Fat Boys when I was a kid. That was back in the day. Yeah, I still live kind of close to the Bay Area. Yep, the OG ones, man. The OG rappers, Fat Boys and Freddie. Yep, that was back in the day, man. 8-track. God, I'm so old. I'm talking about that. Jay-Z, and then the old school rappers, Curtis Blow. Oh my gosh, you're going way back now. New Kids, Fat. I didn't listen to a lot of Fat Joe. Back in the day, I listened to a lot of church music. To be like, you guys ever hear of a band called DC Talk? Way back in the day, that was what I listened to when I was a kid. Way back in the day. The Beastie Boys. Oh my gosh, I grew up on that stuff. All right, how many votes do we have here? Hold on. All right, that's enough votes. I'll end the poll. Yeah, old Christian. Yeah, it's now Toby Mac. All right, it looks like Eminem won. Yes, Eminem is my favorite rapper. I like Eminem because he grew up in a trailer. He grew up with an effed up family like me. Oh my God, Jesus freak. I still have that on my phone. I'm not kidding. I have Jesus freak on my phone. I just always relate to Eminem. He's raw. He calls it like it is. He doesn't hold punches. He calls balls and strikes. He doesn't care who he offends. And he and I kind of grew up in cruddy homes. So he grew up in a trailer with a mom that was drinking. And I grew up with a dad that used to beat on me. So he kind of like is a reflection of who I was from my childhood. Holy smokes. Okay, I wasn't born in the 60s. All right, thanks, Sharon. Yeah, Eminem is I will die on this hill. Eminem is the GOAT. I don't care if he's white, black. That dude can straight up. You do not want to get on that dude's bad side. MGK came at him, and he regrets that for the rest of his life. You don't want to be on his bad side. That dude's gonna literally tear you down. And if I ever see him at a concert, I told my wife, I'm going to buy tickets, and I'm going to go, and I'll sleep on the couch for 2 years if I have to, but I'm going to go to one of his concerts if he ever comes back. Oh, Joe Rogan? No, I don't think Joe Rogan's fat. I remember Joe Rogan when he used to do the Fear Factor. Oh, dear God almighty. All right. Does anyone have any more questions before I go about life or politics or the pursuit of happiness or white Christian nationalism? Is this a good time to do this? I've never done this. This is a very first time. I thought I would just jump on here. Yeah, Eminem doesn't play with the orange guy. He stood with Colin Kaepernick, and I am very proud of him that he took a knee during the halftime show. That was probably the best halftime show I've ever seen. By a lot. Last year was good, but not like the OG Snoop Dogg and Dre and 50 Cent. I mean, that was dang. Crypt walking was great. Zohran Mandabi, I do. I like him a lot. Thank you, Cecilia. I think that the Democrats are afraid to go too far to the left, and I could be wrong. When I interviewed Eric Swalwell about a month ago, He told me that they should have reversed Citizens United and they should have increased the minimum wage. And I said, why? Because they were trying to go more moderate. And for some reason, the Democrats keep wanting to go more to the right, more to the right. And I really believe this, that most people want them to go to the left. I want universal health care. I want free buses. It's not free. It's being paid for by the tax dollars. I want people to have a living wage. I don't think this is radical. I think this is what most countries do. AOC is center in most countries in this world. There's nothing radical about her at all. She's a waitress. Yeah, you're right. It's analysis paralysis with the Democrats. They're always afraid of pissing somebody off. Yeah, Snoop is a disappointment. He sold out. Yeah, I'll leave this with Madami. I think he's doing a good job. You know what I'm more disappointed in? And I'll leave it on this topic. I'm more disappointed that the Democratic establishment rode with Andrew Cuomo. The guy literally resigned because he sexually harassed 11 women. And that's who the Democratic Party got behind and put millions of dollars behind. And then they bring in Bill Clinton, who cheated on his wife in the White House and got impeached. That's the guy you bring in. And you try to crap on Mondavi, the guy that wins. And then 400,000 Democrats voted for Andrew Cuomo, who sexually assaulted 11 or sexually harassed 11 women. How are those Democrats? Maybe someone can answer this. How are those Democrats criticizing the guy in the White House who did what he did to Jean Carroll, but still voting for Andrew Cuomo? Can anybody tell me that? Because I don't see the difference. The Dems are growing support. No, the Democrats are toast. They're cooked. They're the problem with the two-party system. I look at it like this, and I'm only using this as an analogy. What happened to George Floyd is horrible. I see the Republicans as Derek Chauvin, and I see, they're blue MAGA. That's my video. And I see the Democrats as the three officers that stood by while the house is on fire. I don't see it differently. That's what I see happening. They're just as complicit because they're not doing anything. They're literally sending me texts saying, hey, Booker was like, hey, fam, give me $10. Like, what? Do your damn job. Yeah, I'm not doing anything. And if they don't win, I don't really care. I don't view them as a lesser of two evils. I really don't. Both sides are taking money. Both sides haven't reversed Citizens United. Both people are getting money from AIPAC. Neither one of them has reversed Citizens United. Neither one of them has raised minimum wage. What have they done? What has either side done? I'm just being honest. They haven't done anything. There's too many people on the far left, and it's what drives me nuts is they're this elitist snobs. I went on there. I got called a racist because I had the audacity to criticize Hakeem Jeffries. I'm not kidding you. 5 different people called me that because I dare criticize Hakeem Jeffries. Is he not the leader of the Democratic Party? I can't help what color he is. He's the leader. If the quarterback loses the game, you blame the quarterback. And then I blamed Cory Booker. Cory Booker gave a 26-hour speech. And then what did he do? He voted for Charles Kushner because he gives him money. Yeah. I can't help that they happen to be black. I criticize Eric Swalwell. I criticize Elizabeth Warren. I criticize everybody. Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries is like the Temu version of I don't even know what you say, President Obama? I don't know what you call that. He's a joke. He's an absolute joke. He's a jellyfish as a congressman. What has he done? I like Buttigieg, but I think there's too many bigots in this country that won't vote for a gay person. I don't like that. I think it's garbage. I like AOC. I don't think she's ready yet. This is what I want to see from AOC. I want to see AOC run against Chuck Schumer and kick his dinosaur ass out of the office. That's what I want to see from AOC. If she does that and she sticks her finger against the establishment, I will be more on board with AOC. I will be all in and I will donate to her and I will campaign for her if she does that. That's what I want to see from her. I love Porter. I don't like Adam Schiff at all. He's a political shill. I love Katie Porter, and I hope that she wins the governorship here. I like James a lot. My concern with James is that he's not going to fight as hard as he needs to. Yeah. The problem with politicians is that they don't care about the people. When I talked about Eric Swalwell and I told him, Eric, we have people in concentration camps. And his answer, when I asked about a general strike, will it help us win the midterms? That was it. He didn't care unless it helped them politically. I was really disappointed in him. Very disappointed. If you abandon the Dems, where's AOC? Both parties are broken. That's what we have to understand. The system itself is broken, my friends. This isn't about going more progressive. Both parties are part of the problem. They are two sides of the same coin. We have to, if you want to go more progressive, start a new party and reverse Citizens United. If we do not reverse Citizens United, if we don't take dark money out of politics, if we don't take APEC money, if we don't put term limits on, if we don't raise minimum wage, what's the point of voting for more progressive candidates? There is none. There's no reason to continue in this experiment because it's not serving the people. You go on a general strike. That's what I've been pushing. You shut the country down. You don't pay taxes. Teachers don't go to work. UPS don't go to work. FedEx doesn't go to work. Union workers do a wildcat strike against the will of their employers. Farmers don't go to work. And you say, we've had enough of this. We're not going to participate until you serve the people. But I don't think we have the stomach to do that as a country. If you look at France, May of 1968, 22% of their population did that. Turkey's doing it right now by the millions. Athens, Greece does it once a year. The entire country shuts down to protest something. Countries throughout the whole world protest like this, but we as Americans don't have the willpower to do it. That's what needs to happen. That's the only way that we're going to have actual change in this country. We can't expect the government to change the government. Why would the government take away dark money when they're benefiting from it? Golden says we need to vote for politicians who are in it too. You're missing the point. If you have a house with a broken foundation that's sinking in the ground, okay? It doesn't matter if you paint the walls, put in a new stove, put in new cabinets. It doesn't matter. The foundation of the house is broken. And the foundation of this government is broken. Putting new people in a broken house doesn't make sense. If I have an engine with 800,000 miles that doesn't even work, if I put new tires on it, is it going to matter? No. It's still an 800,000 mile engine that doesn't work. We have to get away from this. The two-party system is not designed to benefit us. If they will address colonialism, people like Bernie Sanders, voting does nothing. Yeah, you're right. Our votes don't mean nothing. And if they gerrymander the district, it's going to mean even less. Yeah, the general strike is the way to do it. But too many people don't want to be uncomfortable. And the reality is, I'll leave you with this quote because I got to get going here. The famous quote is, first they came for the socialists, but I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't do anything. Then they came for the union workers, but I wasn't a union worker, so I didn't do anything. Then they came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't do anything. And then they came for me, and there was no one there to stand up for me, so they took me. And that's what's happening. We're watching immigrants in concentration camps, people being kidnapped, women losing their rights, and we're just like, I can't afford to do it. It doesn't affect me. That's where we are. Whether we like to admit it or not, that's where we are. And politicians won't tell you that. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, so you reelect them so they can perpetuate the system of screwing us and not giving us a living wage and can't afford housing. That's just the reality. If we go down this path and we reelect Democrats again, we're going to be in the same cycle. I'm telling you, people, trust me, this is the way you have to fix it. Well, Golden, because enough people haven't decided that they're tired of it. There's still too many people that want to vote for the lesser of two evils. Yeah, you're right. I think there's people that are too scared and they don't want to be uncomfortable. I mean, so I'll leave because I got to get going here. Can you imagine if Martin Luther King didn't give a speech because he didn't want to lose his job? Can you imagine if Rosa Parks didn't sit on the bus because she didn't want to lose her job? Can you imagine if John Lewis didn't cross the bridge because he didn't want to lose his job? Or Harriet Tubman didn't build the bridge because she didn't want to lose her job? That's exactly what we're doing. I mean, literally, Black people since the history of this country have been treated like absolute shit. They've had to fight. They've been treated poorly. They've been discriminated against. But once we're like, oh no, I can't lose my job. Like, seriously? That's so weak. That is totally weak and feckless. We have to get some thick skin and grow up and find a backbone as people. We really have to stand up to this, or we're just going to be completely gone. And I don't, in 20 years, I don't want my grandkids to say, Grandpa, where were you? I want to say, you know what? I was on the right side of history. I did everything I could. And I just hope we don't have regrets when we look back and say, well, I watched Midas Touch for 3 hours a day, because that's not going to change fascism. So, all right, my friends, I am going to call. This was a cool experience. I don't know how to. Oh, there it is. End the stream. All right, guys. I'll try to do this more often. If I have time. The kids have school tomorrow. It's okay to be afraid. I will say this, Nest. Bullies and narcissists rule by fear. Fear is given. They want you to be afraid so you won't fight up against them. Just keep that in mind. All right, guys. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.